My name is Juliana Brotzman. I'm a student physical therapist from Gannon University, and I'm here to talk to you today about pain and where pain comes from. So the first thing I have is a pop quiz. So we're going to kind of assess what your knowledge is about pain right now. So what do you know about pain and where it comes from? So you can just keep a tally on your own or keep your answers in your head. The first question, is it possible to have pain and not know about it? True or false? These are all going to be true or false questions. When part of your body is injured, special pain receptors convey the pain message to your brain. Pain only occurs when you are injured or at risk of being injured. When you are injured, special receptors convey the danger message to your spinal cord. Special nerves in your spinal cord convey danger messages to your brain. Nerves adapt by increasing their resting level of excitement. Chronic pain means that an injury hasn't healed properly. The body tells the brain when it's in pain. Nerves adapt by making ion channels stay open longer. Descending neurons are always inhibitory. Pain occurs whenever you are injured. When you injure yourself, the environment that you are in will not affect the amount of pain you experience as long as the injury is exactly the same. And the last one is, the brain decides when you will experience pain. So take a moment and think about those. So here we have the answer key. So if you can take a moment and look it over and think about what you thought was true versus not true. We'll see that the first three were false, the next three were true, the next two were false, and then we had true, two more false, and two more true. Keep this in mind and keep your answers in mind as we go throughout the rest of this presentation. We'll be talking about this more at the end and what these answers mean, and hopefully that you learned something from this. So our first question is, where does pain come from? And what we know is that tissues do not feel pain. So your ankle does not feel pain. There is no pain signal that gets sent to the brain to be decoded. The only thing that's sent to the brain is a danger message. So the message itself is sent to the brain, and then the brain decides whether it's going to be painful or not. So how does that work? So when you get injured, so say you fall down, you hurt part of your body, those nerves in your body parts send a signal to your spinal cord. The spinal cord has a ton of cells in it that all interact and connect with each other, and those either make the message urgent and send it with a high danger level, or they leave the message as is and send it along the way. So all the way up the spinal cord into the brain, that message can be intensified and amplified depending on what's happening with those cells in the spinal cord and what connections they're making. When it gets to the brain decodes the message and processes it in all different parts of your brain and determines whether or not the injury that happened is actually a danger or not to the body. If the brain decides, oh, it's fine, it's just a paper cut, might sting a little bit, you're going to be fine, then you don't get a huge pain response. If the brain decides there is a big danger, so say if you break your leg, the brain will send down an intense pain signal which forces you to pay attention to that body part and get off of it. If you break your leg, you've got a broken bone, you've got damage there to your tissue, you don't want to be standing on and using that leg. So in essence, pain is really a protective function. It forces you to pay attention to that body part so that you don't injure it anymore, and then you take the next steps, to seek medical attention, stop using it, put a Band-Aid on it, whatever that is. So pain does not come from the tissues. Pain is purely a process of the brain decoding all these messages and inputs coming from different parts of the body and from the spinal cord. So when you have an injury, that makes sense because you want the brain to know that body part needs attention. And you want the inflammatory process to start, which is your body's natural healing mechanism. So for the most part, pain is good. I know we don't think like that normally, but pain is a good thing because it's protective in function and it helps keep us safe. So how is this message influenced? So we talked about it traveling up the spinal cord and all these different cells and neurons affect it, but it's also affected by outside things too. So context really matters as far as where your injury occurred. Your state of mind really matters for where this injury occurred. All these things influence how your brain handles that message and processes it and what kind of output it will send back. So were you already upset when it happened? Maybe you were fighting with your spouse. Maybe you missed a deadline at work. Maybe you've hurt this leg before. Did the kids have projects due? Did I eat breakfast this morning? Has your anxiety been through the roof lately? What was happening when you were injured? Were you doing something fun, like playing a game or a sport? Was it traumatic and you were in a car accident or you fell off your bike? Did you already hurt that leg? Did you really just trip over the cat and you're okay and nothing's broken at all? So your state of mind, your environment, and your internal thought process all affects how much of a pain response your brain is going to send back to those tissues. All of these things and more, this is not an all-encompassing list, really have a huge effect on your brain's response to injury, more so than we had ever known previously. So great, I broke my leg 5 years ago. Why does it still hurt? So we have these amazing self-healing bodies. Bones heal, discs, stop bulging, muscles stop hurting, inflammation goes down, swelling goes away. So why do you still hurt? What normally happens is a danger to the body happens. It causes an inflammatory response. So chemicals, fluid, and hormones rush to the area that's injured, so say your broken leg. And the pain has alerted you to all these things, so you get swelling, redness, warmth, pain. These are all good things. We never like them, they never feel good, and we always think that inflammation is a bad thing. But when you have an injury, that inflammation brings all these good things to that area to begin the healing process. And then as things begin to heal, tissues begin to fix themselves, inflammation decreases, swelling goes down, the nervous system then returns to its normal resting state as the threat dissipates and as the tissues heal. Sometimes, however, that does not happen. So the body does not return to this sort of even keel resting state, and the nervous system stays heightened and aroused long after the tissues have healed. Part of this, and a lot of this, has to do with all those external factors I mentioned earlier. So your state of mind, the context in which the injury happened, how you were feeling that day, how traumatic was the injury, all of those things and all of the stressors, really life stressors, can help influence how long that pain sensation lasts and how long you have and experience pain even long after those tissues are healed. So your nervous system is in this heightened state where it takes now less stimuli to give you the same intense pain output that you would have had with the initial traumatic injury. So maybe, to say this is 5 years later, you bumped your leg while walking around the table, or you tripped over a bump in the sidewalk near where you fell off your bike, or you had just had a fight with somebody before you stubbed your toe somewhere, or maybe you had surgery and have a big scar there, and every time you touch the scar, you get this really intense pain, like you re-broke the leg, and that's coming from your nervous system being all riled up and ready to fire off these signals because it's so used to being in this heightened state. So am I going to hurt forever? So once you hurt yourself and you are stuck in this persistent pain state, is that how it's always going to be? Like, I broke my leg, now it's forever going to be my bum leg, or I hurt my back and now I'm forever going to have a bad back, or that's my blown out knee or useless shoulder. Am I going to have to be on pain meds forever? Is this how I'm going to live now in this constant pain? Well, if we go back to our amazing self-healing bodies, it doesn't have to be. So just like the signal can be intensified and that pain response can be intensified, it can also be desensitized. So you can lower those pain thresholds again. and you can reduce your resting nervous state and the constant state of inflammation to a more normal resting level and a normal excitability level. We like to call ourselves these amazing bioplastic machines, because our bodies are not quite machines, but we do have this amazing ability to move and change and adapt to our stimuli and our environment. So that is one of the most amazing things we can do, is kind of capitalize on that ability. So just like you can heighten things and sensitize and make things more intense, you can work the other way to help bring that back to a more normal state and where it should be. Well, how do we do that? It sounds easy when you're talking about it, but I'm sure some of you have been in pain for a long time, and it's not something that, just poof, goes away. Well, you're doing it right now, which is the very cool thing. So it has been proven in multiple studies that knowing where your pain comes from, knowing how your pain works and how your brain processes those signals, can have a therapeutic effect on decreasing pain intensity and decreasing pain thresholds. So if you combine that with something like therapeutic exercise or graded motor exposure, which is challenging painful movements and introducing those painful motions slowly over time and increasing them, you can reduce the levels of persistent pain that you're feeling. So combining this pain science education piece with regular activity, a healthy diet and lifestyle, as well as a more positive mindset and how you think about pain and how you think about your own body, can have a huge impact on what that pain is without having changed anything major or added medications, in challenging your own beliefs about how you think about it. Without having done anything, you can change the state of the pain that you're in. If you're living this healthy, active lifestyle, the more movement you have, it will cause your brain to produce the feel-good hormones, or the good chemicals that are stronger than any painkiller on the market, and will, over time, lessen that pain threshold and will increase the amount of stimulation you would need to achieve that same pain response, that same intense pain. So a big part of it is being open to new ideas, being open to learning about your body and how your brain works, which is a very cool thing to learn about, and changing the way you perceive your body. It's not a bad leg. It's just a leg that was injured, and it's your leg, and the tissues will heal. Your leg will get better. So a lot of it is mind over matter. A lot of it is something that your local physical therapist can help with. If you're having persistent pain, if you're having pain that won't go away, if you've had it for a long time, or even if it's new pain, it may be something to have a conversation with your physical therapist about. So really, in summary, what we did today, we want you to know that pain is normal, pain is okay, and pain is a protective function. So it's there to protect your body when you injure yourself. There are no pain signals. There are only danger messages that get sent to your brain, and then your brain decides whether or not to send back a pain message. So whether you will feel pain or not, all comes from your brain and how it decodes those messages. And the most important part is you can influence how your brain interprets those and resends those pain messages back to your body. So you have a lot of power over your own body. We're going to look at this questionnaire one more time to see if we learned anything new today. So I'll read them off one more time to you. Again, these are all true or false statements. Is it possible to have pain and not know about it? When part of your body is injured, special pain receptors convey the pain message to your brain. Pain only occurs when you are injured or at risk of being injured. When you are injured, special receptors convey the danger messages to your spinal cord. Special nerves in your spinal cord convey danger messages to your brain. Nerves adapt by increasing their resting level of excitement. Chronic pain means that an injury hasn't healed properly, the body tells the brain when it's in pain. Nerves adapt by making ion channels stay open longer. Descending neurons are always inhibitory. Pain occurs whenever you are injured. When you injure yourself, the environment that you are in will not affect the amount of pain that you experience as long as the injury is exactly the same. And the last one is the brain decides when you will experience pain. So if we go through the answers on these, is it possible to have pain and not know about it? False. If you're in pain, you will know it. By definition of the brain causing an output message of pain, you couldn't have pain and not know because your brain had to produce that message. When part of your body is injured, special pain receptors convey the message to your brain. We know that's false. There are no pain receptors. There are only stimuli receptors that send a danger message to the brain. Pain only occurs when you are injured or at risk of being injured. That is false, and we see that when you have pain following long after tissues are injured, or long after tissues have healed, you'll still see pain there. Phantom limb pain is another example of this, so you don't have to be injured to feel pain. When you are injured, special receptors convey the danger message to your spinal cord. That is true. So that one we know. Those messages, danger messages, get sent to the spinal cord where they're influenced and then get sent up to the brain. Special nerves in your spinal cord convey danger messages to the brain. Also true. Nerves adapt by increasing their resting level excitement. That is true. So that's how we talked about being in that higher intensity resting state where you're more sensitive to stimuli. Chronic pain means that the injury hasn't healed properly. That is false. So we know you can have pain long after the tissues have healed. The body tells the brain when it's in pain. That is false. It is the exact opposite. The brain is in command. Nerves adapt by making ion channels stay open longer. This is true. So that's part of that sensitization part where the nerves are in a heightened state. The way in which they're activated becomes more efficient, and that's part of how they remain in that higher resting state. Descending neurons are always inhibitory. This is false. So the message that gets sent down from the brain to the tissues can be intensified on the way down as well as on the way up. Pain occurs whenever you are injured. This is false. So a lot of times we see examples where you might hurt yourself and not notice it until you see maybe blood dripping down your hand or a bruise or swelling. So because of this, we know that it's the brain that does the output of pain. If your brain doesn't get the message, and your eyes are a huge part of how your brain takes in external stimuli, your vision is a huge part of that. So until you see it, you don't even know that you're injured. When you injure yourself, the environment that you are in will not affect the amount of pain you experience as long as the injury is exactly the same. So that's true. The environment that you're in plays a huge factor in how you will experience pain. That's part of all of that external contextual stuff we talked about, where if it's a traumatic event or if it's a very hot day, if you're at home, if you're at work, all of those things influence how much pain you're going to be in following an injury. And it could be the exact same injury and you would have a very different response to it based on where you are. And the last one, the brain decides when you will experience pain. This is true, and that is, in summary, everything that we learned today is that the brain is in charge and the brain decides when you experience pain. That's all I have for you today. So if you have any questions, feel free.
There is a question.
Send us an email, put it in the comments. Do we have any right now?
We have a question right now.
Sure.
On Facebook. What are some things I can do at home to cope with pain?
To cope with pain at home? Well, I don't know anything about what pain you're experiencing or from what body part, but a great way to start is by being as active as possible. So taking daily walks, doing daily exercises. It doesn't have to be very intense. Practicing mindfulness and meditation and just slow, deep breathing and bringing awareness to your own body. Taking a look at how you've been eating and what food you've been eating. So these are easy little changes to make. if you're eating foods that are highly processed and high in sugar and fats, those can contribute to an inflammation state and contribute to more intense pain. So little small changes in your daily life can make a huge impact on the chronic pain you're experiencing. Okay. All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to drop one in the comments or send us a message directly. And it was a pleasure speaking with you.